Many workers are injured and killed each year by being crushed by the swinging superstructure of the crane. The operator, his assistant, signal persons, and others who work directly with the crane are acutely aware of this hazard. Other workers must be warned. One of the ways we can help these workers keep out of danger is with a barricade to prevent access from the area within the swing radius of the rotating superstructure of the crane. It's not just a nice thing to do, it's an OSHA rule. Workers should stand well clear of loads during all phases of the lift. If an employee needs to guide a load, he or she should at no time be at risk of being struck by the load if it falls or swings out of control. When the load has to be positioned at a height that would place the worker at risk of slipping and falling underneath the load, a tagline should be used. This is not the place to save a little time trying to place it by hand.
There are moving parts on cranes that can maim or kill. Belt drives, chain drives, gears, outriggers, and feed rolls. OSHA requires that such moving parts will be guarded wherever possible to prevent access. You know, crane takes a hell of a beating. Guards that were in place in the morning may have vibrated loose by coffee break. You'll get in the habit of looking for those things every time you pass. Sometimes the operator won't be able to leave his cab for long periods of time, and he may not notice. As part of your training of the crane crew, remind them to keep an eye out for these guards and take the time to replace them whenever necessary. See that guy over there? He's a rigger, qualified person. He's received special training in the procedures and equipment used to safely secure all manner of material and equipment so that the crane can take it from where it is to where we want it and do it without dropping it on, or parts of it, on someone's head in the process. Now, the rigger is responsible for ensuring that the rigging equipment has the required capacity to do the job, that it's in good condition, it has a current inspection if required, and it's used as intended. The rigger is also responsible for confirming that the load path is clear of personnel and obstacles.
There are 4 basic rules of rigging. Know the weight. You can't choose the right equipment without knowing the weight it has to support. Know the capacity. This simply means that you need to know the design capacity of all the equipment and know the factors that influence the capacity, such as sling working angles. Retain the load. This means that a rigger must know what equipment to use and which hitches work best for certain kinds of loads. Control the load. The rigging must not allow the load to shift unexpectedly while on the hook. Material and property can be damaged. Personnel can be injured or killed by falling objects.
Now, you know, human nature being what it is, people sometimes cut corners to get the job done. Yeah, well, crane operations are not where you want to cut corners. Now, here's some things to look out for. The pins in shackles are easy to misplace. In a pinch, workers have been known to substitute a bolt. Now, the bolt may be the same diameter, but it will not be the same strength. Lifting hooks take a lot of abuse. Check that the keeper isn't deformed, that the hook hasn't been bent to the side, and that the ring isn't worn or deformed.
Each of the hazards you just saw listed is worth a video all by itself. We'll give you a brief overview of the issues involved, but be prepared to do additional study and preparation if faced with these situations. Traveling the crane with a load presents hazards that deserve special attention. You have to make sure the manufacturer doesn't prohibit it, and that the reduced rating that may apply are adhered to, and that the soil along the travel track is such that the crane will remain within its required level parameters. If possible, during these so-called pick and carry operations, assign 2 helpers, a flagger to watch and control the movement of the load, and a spotter to work with the operator to control the movement of the crane. Here's a term you need to know and understand: critical lift. This is any crane lift that can cause a high risk of personnel injury or property damage, can result in a chemical spill, can cause undetectable damage that could affect future safety, or could cause significant work delay when things go wrong. Whenever the operator cannot see the placement of the load, we call the operation a blind pick. Here, the good judgment of the signal person is all the operator has to rely upon. Blind picks are often considered critical lifts and are subject to the planning and coordination we've already talked about.
Now, I haven't seen this for years, but you do know that no one is allowed to ride the ball or the load. Personnel can be lifted by crane, but there are some strict guidelines. A registered professional engineer must design the platform, and a qualified welder must fabricate it. In my opinion, a better choice is to use one of the commercially available devices. The rigging equipment used must be reserved only for lifting personnel. A proof lift with dead weights must be done in each location before lifting personnel. It's not an operation that can be mounted on short notice. Another critical lift occurs when multiple cranes are used to perform a single lift. This is a very complex operation and requires careful planning and the on-site direction of a qualified person.